He will protect you with his plumage, and you will find refuge under his wings. His loyalty will serve as your fortress and defense. Psalm 91 verse 4. Introduction. When fear finds us. One of the most universal human experiences is fear. It locates us in hospital waiting spaces. We are captivated when the telephone calls with distressing news. It infiltrates our minds in the late hours of the night, murmuring, "What if?" Fear can paralyze us, rob us of serenity, and distort our vision of the future. However, in the midst of dread, Psalm 91 verse 4 presents an image that is so tender and so powerful that it penetrates the darkness. God is depicted as a bird that gathers its young under its wings, protecting them from peril, storm, and attack, rather than as a distant deity. This is not a frigid theological assertion. It is a depiction of unwavering protection, safety, and intimacy. God does not abandon us when life shocks us. We are protected by him. He provides us with protection. He serves as our refuge, the visual representation of God's wings. Psalm 91 verse 4 employs language that is both profoundly personal and poetic. He will envelop you in his feathers. The image of a mother bird spreading her wings to protect her young was well known to the people of ancient Israel. The purpose of those wings was not only to provide warmth, but also to safeguard against predators. The vulnerable discovered sanctuary beneath those wings. Throughout the Bible, this image is present. God is likened to an eagle that lingers over its young and stirs up its nest in Deuteronomy 32:11. Ruth 2:12. Ruth is rewarded for seeking refuge under the wings of the Lord. In Matthew 23:37, Jesus weeps over Jerusalem, yearning to assemble its inhabitants just as a hen gathers her brood. The wings of God are a symbol of unwavering defense and compassionate care in every instance. Running under those wings is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of prudence, the shield of God's faithfulness. The verse continues, "His faithfulness will serve as your shield and fortress." Shields and ramparts were indispensable for survival during combat. The body was safeguarded by a shield. An entire community was safeguarded by a rampart, which was a fortified fortification. Collectively, they established an impenetrable defense against assault. Take note of the psalmist's assertion that God's faithfulness serves as our protection. It is not our own fortitude, plans that are not our own, his faithfulness rather than our own faith. This implies that God's protection remains unfailing, regardless of our hesitation or lack of fortitude. His assurances continue to endure. His character remains consistent. His word is unyielding. Fear in the Bible, narratives of protection. The Bible is replete with instances in which the people of God were threatened by dread. However, his protection was ultimately more effective. Israel at the Red Sea, the people were consumed by dread, as the sea was in front of them and Pharaoh's army was behind them. However, the waters were divided by the power of God, which provided them with protection until they were able to cross safely. Exodus 14. Daniel in the lion's lair. Daniel's fate appeared to be predetermined as he was surrounded by predators. Yet God shut the lions' mouths, demonstrating that his shield is more powerful than any earthly peril. Daniel 6. The disciples were overcome with dread when the waves threatened to capsize their boat during the storm. However, Jesus arose, addressed the tempest with tranquility, and emphasized that his presence is more potent than the wind and waves. Mark 4:35-41. In each narrative, anxiety was genuine. However, God's safeguarding was much more extensive. Afraid in the contemporary era. Although fear may not manifest itself in the form of armies, lions, or cyclones, it is no less genuine today. The experience of receiving a cancer diagnosis can be akin to that of a howling lion. Job loss can be akin to a violent tempest. Armies pressing in can be the sensation of violence, war, and uncertainty. The experience of anxiety can be akin to being confined within a prison with invisible boundaries. God's protection is not restricted to ancient periods, as Psalm 91 verse 4 serves as a reminder. His wings continue to provide protection. His shield continues to provide protection. His loyalty remains unwavering. The nature of God's protection. Occasionally, we misinterpret the protection of God. We believe it implies that we will never encounter adversity. However, Psalm 91 does not guarantee an existence without pain. It is a guarantee that no threat, regardless of its severity, will isolate us from God's protection. There are numerous ways in which God provides protection, spiritual protection, reminding us of His promises and protecting us from despair. Emotional safeguarding, providing us with a tranquility that surpasses comprehension. Physical protection, providing us with protection from injury, albeit in ways that may not be apparent until a later date. Eternal safeguarding, guaranteeing that our soul is secure in Him, regardless of the demise of this body. The tempest may not always be removed by God's covering, but it always ensures our safety during it. How to find solace under His wings. The imagery is exquisite. However, how do we actually embody it? How can we seek refuge under the protection of God's wings? Pray with sincerity. When spoken in the presence of God, fear is rendered ineffective. Transmit your emotions to Him. Hold fast to His word. Psalm 91 is inherently a prayer for protection. Our souls are fortified by the act of speaking and reflecting on Scripture. Rely on His consistency. Remember that He has never failed before, and He will not fail now, even when the circumstances appear dismal. Be at peace in His presence. Prayer, worship, and calm trust are methods of residing under His protection. Remain in proximity to the group. In the same way that chicks are most secure when they are congregated together, we are at our most powerful when we are in community with other believers. The recurrence of fear. The reality is that fear does not dissipate indefinitely. It returns like waves. However, each time it occurs, we are presented with a decision. Will we continue to exist in a state of vulnerability, or will we once again seek refuge under the protection of God's wings? The psalmist does not assert that God may protect you. Rather, he asserts that He will. This is an assurance that you may assert repeatedly. A word for the weary. Maybe you feel as though you have been living in anxiety for an excessive amount of time. Failure anxiety, loss anxiety, apprehension regarding tomorrow's prospects. Today, allow the words of Psalm 91, verse 4, to envelope you. He will shelter you under His wings, and He will cover you with His feathers. You are not obligated to engage in a solo battle. You don't need to sustain an exposed lifestyle. You are not obligated to bear fear alone. Your shield is God's faithfulness. His wings are your sanctuary. Conclusion, His wings provide protection. Fear may be genuine. However, God's safeguarding is more extensive. You are secure under His protection, much like a child who is protected by a parent's affection. You are protected by His faithfulness, much like a combatant behind an impenetrable shield. In addition to being a work of poetry, Psalm 91 verse 4 makes a promise. Recall that God surrounds terror when it envelops you, and you will always find refuge under His wings. If you found this message to be motivating, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Tell us your story. When has God provided you with His protection during a period of fear? And do not neglect to investigate additional devotionals to gain daily fortitude from God's Word.